I filmed my short film Harbourton in one day with no crew and no budget. I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it so you can do it too. Now, if you haven't watched Harbourton, I'm gonna put a link to it in the description below. Go watch that and then come back and watch this. We're gonna start off with mindset and pre-production because I think that's the most logical place to begin. Initially, this was intended to be like a cinematic intro for a different YouTube video because I wanted to get some reps in with cinematography. I had a few shots in my head that typically I would just go grab, but this time I thought it might be interesting to sketch them out and kind of build like a storyboard because I don't often do that. This is like the first time that I've actually had to sketch out some frames. And I will tell you, I am not an artist, but it helped me get the point across. And after sketching out the first few frames, the juices were flowing and I decided to keep going. I eventually built this storyboard and figured maybe this should be its own thing. Right out of the gate, I was under the clock. I had a big shoot up in Brooklyn the following week where I was leaving on Monday. I needed to get my final prep done for that, as well as run some errands like getting my brakes done so I can drive to the city safely. Also, we were expecting a really big storm to come in around 5 or 6 o'clock according to the forecast. So I started storyboarding somewhere around like 8:30 in the morning, and it probably took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to finally complete the whole thing and get a gist of the story. It's 10. I had about 7 hours. How could I possibly pull this off? If I have an idea, I have to act upon that before the inner voices talk me out of it, convince me that it's not a good idea, convince me to push it off, maybe ultimately forget about it entirely. When an idea hits, I need to just go. I really didn't have the time to reach out to people and ask them if they were available, wait for them to get off of work or finish their errands. So it was all on me ultimately. Just to add more to the plate, I would be shooting, directing, acting, and crewing for myself. I needed to make this easy on myself. Make it efficient, keep it simple. I created a shot list grouping specific things together, like opening, exteriors, exterior action shots, wides, interior car, interior driving, and some detail and pickup shots. Since I'm acting in it and also shooting it, I didn't have extra hands to operate the camera. I had to keep it simple, and I'd put it on a tripod. Now you might say that that's not very cinematic. However, Sir Roger Deakins, one of the greatest cinematographers of all time, has said many a times, you don't have to move the camera unless the story needs it.
Sure. I think there's times to move the camera, there's times to follow a character, and there's times to stay back and allow that character to observe that, the audience to observe that character within the space. Be stronger, just keep this camera static on a wide shot. Sometimes it'd be better the actor sat down and you just looked at his face instead of he's wandering around all these wonderful locations.
If it's good enough for Roger Deakins, I think it's good enough for me and you. I was shooting on my Canon R7, and for speed and versatility, I decided to use my Sigma 18-35 art lens. Why I went with the zoom is because I can either shoot 18mm wide or go in 35mm. 35mm would have been more than close enough for the close-up shots on the interior of the vehicle. I chose to shoot in manual focus because I didn't really want to have any focus breathing or autofocus hunting while a scene was going on. I thought it'd be best to just hold that focus, and whatever action was taking place in front of it, the action would then move into the focus area. Not to mention, I kind of like that look in movies. For example, in Skyfall, right in the beginning when you see the hallway, a not in focus Bond becomes a silhouette in front of the window, and then as he moves up, you only see the slash of light on his eyes, but he moves into being in focus. One of my favorite shots of all time. I thought, fine, let's just do it this way. Being that I'm using a zoom lens, zoom lenses tend to be at sharpest anywhere between f4 and like f8, somewhere in there. Each lens is kind of different, so you have to find the sweet spot. So I made the decision to shoot between F4 and F8. That way, if there was movement or anything with the camera, the subject that was being focused wasn't moving in and out of focus and it wasn't drastic. Shooting wide open in f1.8 or 2.8 or 0.95 isn't by default cinematic. Again, going back to Roger Deakins, he doesn't like shooting wide open because that's not how the human eye works. So go back to Shawshank Redemption and look at almost most of the scenes in that movie. Almost everything's in focus. Now, this next decision I made was a little bit more of an artistic decision. I decided I was going to overexpose my image by at least one stop, anywhere between one stop to 1 1/3 stop overexposed. That way, I should be able to have enough detail in my shadows. It's easier to bring the exposure down and have detail in the shadows than it is to underexpose and increase. Plus, I find on the Canon R7, you get a better image when you overexpose by a stop. So with camera settings and everything out of the way, now all I needed were props and costume. I thought it'd be a little cheeky and funny to wear a Hawaiian shirt and a bucket hat. For whatever reason, that's just the look that popped in my head, so I went with it. When I was storyboarding, I needed a MacGuffin to move the story along, to give my character a motivation for running away. So I decided, why not borrow one of the greatest MacGuffins of all time from Pulp Fiction? So the glowing briefcase, yes, that's where I got it from. I grabbed my Apache 5800 case from Harbor Freight. I made some modifications using these Nanlite Pavotube 6Cs and some aluminum foil to give me the glowing effect. Now the only thing left to do was to shoot. I grabbed all the gear that I needed, camera, tripod, props. So I headed back to the location where I wanted to shoot, the centralized place where I think I could get the bulk of my shots. There's a big fallen tree back in this location, and my original idea was to open it on the trunk of the tree, see the case slam down from below, and then I come up and open it, check what's inside, close it, and then take off running. Well, this is where I ran into my first challenge. It's totally overgrown, and when I approached it, there were some noises coming out of it. Some creature was living in or around it, and because of the overgrowth, I couldn't see it. And I didn't want to chance it because we have copperheads around here, and last thing I want to do is go to the hospital a few days before a big shoot because I got bit by a copperhead. I decided to leave well enough alone, and I'll find another location later on and just move on to the next shots. I set up the tripod and camera, I framed out the composition where I wanted to come through, and then I hit record, went around, and ran past the camera. I only did it twice because I'm not very much in running shape, so on to the next shots. So for a little extra comedic touch, I thought it would be funny in the storyboarding phase to have an interior shot and see the suitcase come through the sunroof, and then I followed the suitcase. Easy enough, kind of. Since I knew I wanted the exterior shot as well as the interior shot, I was only gonna do this twice. One time on the outside, one time on the inside. I framed up my shots, collected all my exterior things, grabbed the door handle, throwing the case in, and then me climbing up onto the car. So then it was time to move on to the interior car shots. I opened up the cargo area on the 4Runner, and I positioned the tripod legs, lined up my shot, framed it up, and I hit record, closed the door, and then performed my stunt. So it's time to shoot the profile close-ups of me driving. So what I had to do is I took my tripod and I wedged the legs out where they could, the passenger seat and the console, onto the floor, and then I took the third leg and I wedged it between the passenger seat and the door. For extra support, I decided to hold on to one of the tripod legs to keep it from falling over. It was gonna be a close-up shot. I think I was shooting at either 28 or 35 millimeter of just my side profile. You wouldn't have seen it anyway. So on top of all that, I had my in-body stabilization turned off because any movements or shakes, I wanted that to feel real and frenetic. Since this was an action sequence, I wanted real camera movement. and I didn't want to have any of the wavy nonsense that you get from in-body stabilization. So I hit record, I did my drive-throughs all the way back to my landing point. You could see in the distance that the storm clouds were coming in. It wasn't very fast, but I needed to get moving. I decided to get the detail pickup shots of the key turning over, shifting the car into drive, and then taking off. So what I did was I opened the car door, put the tripod on the ground outside, lined up the shots the way I wanted it, hit record, did a few takes there, and I thought, while I'm here, let's shoot the end sequence of me opening the case, seeing what's inside, closing it, feeling a sigh of relief, putting my head on the steering wheel. I had made it. I kept the car door open to get whatever available light I could into the car. Then all I had to do was do 4 exterior car drive-by shots. So I drove down back again, went to the first location, dropped the camera in the frame, backed up the car, drove by it as quickly as I could, stopped, walked up to the next spot, got back to the car, drove by that, and then so on and so forth. I was really excited for the last one where I'd be driving by the fence and taking a hard right turn. I just thought it'd be cool. The ground was a little dry, so I thought I could get some dust. Not as much as I wanted to, but I'm happy with the shot. All that was left was to get the opening sequence. Now, there's a creek that runs beside the house, and in certain spots, it's like a 3-foot drop down from the ground. I thought that would be good enough to somewhat get my original idea by throwing the case on top, me standing at almost waist level, opening the case, seeing it, being like, wow, turn my head because I hear a noise, and then close the case and take off. Cool. I set it up, shot everything probably about 2 or 3 times a piece. Also shot at different focal lengths to get like a wide, a medium, and then a close-up of me opening the case, thinking I would give myself enough material to work with. I was done shooting. That was a wrap. I was hot. It was one of the hottest days and extremely humid. I was dripping in sweat like I had just jumped in a pool, and I was tired. So I thought I would just take all my gear in, put the SD card in the computer, and start uploading. I'll go take a shower, kind of relax, and then start my edit. When I started the upload, I went to go text my girlfriend and noticed, oh no, where's my phone? I lost it. I don't know where it was. I looked through all the gear. It's not there. Ran out to the car. Couldn't find it in the car. So I came back in the house thinking, what am I going to do? It's got to be in the back somewhere. And that's a lot of tall grass. I'm never going to find it. And the storm's coming. Like, raindrops are starting to fall. I go on my Mac Studio. I hit find my iPhone. And the last ping that it got was way in the back where I first started shooting at my central location. But that's still a lot of ground to cover, and the rain is almost here. So what am I gonna do? Then the genius idea hit me. I'm gonna take my iPad with me, and it's only an iPad with Wi-Fi connection, but it automatically connects to my iPhone and uses it as a hotspot. So when I got within range of the iPhone, I could hit play the sound and I could locate it that way. I've never been more proud of an idea that I had than that, because as soon as I saw it connect to my iPhone, I went to find my play the sound and it started dinging and I found it. I found it in one of the tire tracks where I was filming, and I'm pretty sure what had happened was when I was climbing the car to go in through the sunroof, it came out of my pocket and fell on the ground in the grass. And after the 3-4 loops that I did in that area, I must have run it over. It's fully intact, no problems right now. So that was a weight off my shoulders. So I went and took my shower and came back and started looking at the footage. Losing my iPhone wasn't my only problem. In the driving sequences, especially the medium shot from the cargo area, when I left the tree cover, everything was blown out. And it was very difficult to manage. I should have known better, and I should have shot up until a little bit after the tree line, adjusted my exposure, gone in reverse, and then drove all the way to the back again. Next time I need to be more diligent, but this is why we make those mistakes, so we can assess and correct those mistakes going into the next project. That's why it's important to keep doing this. Whether it's a small, silly idea or it's a big, grand idea, you gotta get the reps in. This is the core value of this channel, is to get better at the craft, and we shouldn't let anything get in the way of that. I don't have the gear I need. I don't have any actors. I don't have any crew. I don't have the time. This whole thing could have been shot on an iPhone. And originally, I was going to shoot it on the Osmo. But I made the decision to turn this into a meaningful rep by shooting the best that I can with what I have. Taking my time with setting up my shots and composing, storyboarding, the whole process. I use this as an entire exercise to work the muscle, but also create habits. But this experience taught me lessons and gave me data that I can use taking forward going into a shoot, whether it's with a client or it's for another creative project. This isn't an award-winning short by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't meant to be. So at the very least, go shoot something. Use the best that you have available to you, make mistakes, watch it back, edit it, assess, and then get better on the next one. Because if I can do it, you can definitely do it.